things are dusty. I've been a little remiss in my duties. I got dust here, dust all over the hair. How do you clean taxidermy mounts? Whether you're a professional taxidermist, the average day taxidermist, just doing things on your own, or your own taxidermy mounts because you're a hunter and you wish to display them in your home. Things get dusty, things get dirty. It's just the way it is. So let's get started on cleaning these. I'll show you the proper techniques. You can go through it yourself and do a real good job. And this is what you do. Now, before you start on this procedure, there's a correct way and an incorrect way to pick up a taxidermy mount. When it comes to head mounts, you just don't grab them by the horns or the antlers and just pick them up. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. I've done it before. What you do usually, put a hand, one hand underneath the chin, the other hand underneath the brisket, and try to pick it up that way. On a smaller mount, you can do that. On larger mounts, well, you may have to use a combination of techniques. Underneath the neck, hand underneath the brisket, or you got to come in close and kind of hug it and pick it up. You just don't pick it up by the horns or the antlers if it's an antlered creature like an elk or a deer. So, how am I going to pick this up? It's easy. Let's pick this baby up underneath there, like that. Be careful up above because this is a real trophy size pronghorn antelope. Let's get started. On the basic and general cleaning of any taxidermy mount, it's simply dusty. It's probably got dust fibers all over it, dust particles, air. Goodness knows what floats around in the air. Whatever's there is usually going to be on your mount. And it doesn't make a difference how clean you are in your home, or no matter how clean you are, wherever it is you're at, it's going to get a little dusty. So how do you clean this off? First thing you do is you want to take a shop vac. It's got a fairly soft, medium airflow to it, and blow it off. That's what we're going to do. We're going to blow this off. We're going to go with the hair, the lay of the hair, blow the insides of the ears, around the eyes, and around the back. Throughout the whole process, you wave it. What this does, it fluffs up the mount a little bit. You have to be careful going backwards. You don't want to do a whole lot of that. Just kind of wave it. Usually start at the top, work your way down. Now, I'm going to go against the hair on this particular mount because this is a pronghorn antelope. It's got a mane. I want it to stand up a little bit more. There you can see all kinds of dust particles and the brittle hair of the antelope. Pronghorn antelope. Brush off the horns. Now, on a pronghorn antelope, the hair is real brittle. It's hollow hair. It gets stained very easily. That's why hunters got to be careful when they're out hunting. Bring some acetone with them, some cold water to go ahead and wash off any bloody soaked areas real quick, because the hollow hair will just suck that dye agent, whatever it may be, blood, etc., into it, and then it'll be stained. But there's ways to release that too. Now, on here, if you ever have an issue with hair slippage or something like this, you can come back in with 91% denatured alcohol and spray it up underneath, and it'll help lock in the fibers. But usually if it's a taxidermy mount that's obviously already been mounted for several years, there's not a whole lot you can do. It's a natural process sometimes when it's brittle. However, any properly mounted animal that's been properly tanned will not lose its hair, period. Sometimes over the years you will have some natural shedding of hair, a light shedding, but not a whole lot. Okay, when it comes to the eyes, a soft cloth, gently wipe those off. Soft cloth. Now, if you do have problems with the eyes for whatever reason, you can come back and not only wipe that off, you can go ahead and get it a little moist, make it a little wet, and come back and wipe that off. Once you go ahead and wipe that off, you just allow it to dry. Now some people say on their mounts you can go ahead and use some type of glass cleaner, Windex, whatever it may be. I don't recommend that. Number one, because I, as well as a lot of other taxidermists, not all, but other ones, to make it look alive, to give it the real wet look, because that's what it is around the eyes, we take clear, high gloss polyurethane and we give it that wet look. We do the same thing on the nostrils and nose area. However, if you keep doing that time after time after time, you'll build up a great big thick cover. You don't want to do that. So if you ever have to do that, you only do that like maybe once every 5, 6, 7 years. If it's kept in a good place, you shouldn't have any problem whatsoever. So these here aren't too bad, so take this. And again, if you want, you can go ahead and get this wet, come back, wipe it off if you feel better with that. Because sometimes there's dust particles and other things that accumulate on a mount where you have really no choice other than to get something wet and go with the grain and wipe it down. You don't saturate the hair, you just go ahead and go with there. If you have anything like cowlicks that come up, you can actually comb it and get it to lay flat. And you can also take some hair conditioner, put that into a spray bottle, mix that about 75-25% with water and a little bit of alcohol in there. What that alcohol does, it shrinks the skin a little bit, helps tighten up just in case there is any problem with the tanning that the taxidermist went through. Spray that on there, comb that in a little bit, and that will take care of it, hold that cowlick down. There are more aggressive measures, but I'm not going to tell you about those. So that's what you do as far as taxidermy mounts go. You just come in, you blow them off, you clean them up, and that's about it. You put them back on the wall. When you come to the nose area, the muzzle, you could even use Q-tips if you want, wipe off inside there, but that's not really necessary. You just come back with a wet cloth if you so desire. Help slick down the hair a little bit, go with the grain, the lay of the hair. Wipe that down, blow it off, you're done. It's real easy, real quick, real simple. Sometimes again you have hair, you have dust that just has a mind of its own, doesn't want to blow off. You got to actually physically remove it. So just kind of take it easy with any taxidermy mount that you have, and it'll last you your entire lifetime. This here is what you call a cow elk. A lot of people, the only type of animals they want to mount as far as elk goes, just a bull elk. Cow elk looks pretty nice mounted too. This one here is really, really dusty. So don't be surprised you see a whole bunch of things flying here when I get around to blowing it off. So here we go. The muzzle all of this. Back and forth motion. see when you do that, you mess up the hair, but that's okay. You can come back with your hands or a brush and just do that. Remember, in nature, nothing is absolutely perfect. There's always a flaw someplace. So a lot of times you'll see a mount where everything's just combed just exactly. Oh man, it's just right out of something biblical. It's so divine looking. Well, that's the taxidermist. That's not real life. So what we want to do is make it look presentable and clean it up. Now this mount was mounted over 20 years ago. Look at it, still looks good. Quality glass eyes. And it'll look good for the rest of my life. Unless some tragic event happens. Look at that. High gloss eyes. I was ready to go back on the wall again. Let's go on to the next mount. Hello, what we're going to do, we're going to start off with cleaning a bear mount. This bear is dusty, and you notice it's an open mouth mount, plastic teeth, rubber tongue, obviously glass eyes. It is a taxidermy mount. The only thing's real on here is the skin, the nose. Now, on all these things here, this has been coated with polyurethane to give it the wet look. So the mouth has been too. What we're going to do, we're going to come in here and wipe off all of this dust right around here. And if this here had been on the mount, say 10, 20, 30 years, it's really going to be bad. But this here has been on the wall about 20 years. But each year I take these mounts off and I clean them. And that is what you should do with every taxidermy mount. Clean it every year, at least once. Depends upon where you live. If it's really dusty or what have you, you may have to clean it more often. But never spray the eyes and the mouth every time you clean it with clear high gloss polyurethane, because then you would have a buildup and it would look kind of cruddy after a while. So just keep that spray to the minimum and you should be okay. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and blow off this mount, and you'll notice when I do this I go back and forth. I explain that on every portion of this tape when you watch it, on this video with all the other mounts we do. It's the same procedure with all mounts. When it comes to wiping them down, it's the same procedure. Again, I said this before in different tapes, some people, they want you to go ahead and use glass cleaner, Windex, what have you, spray down the eyes, wipe that down. No, 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 no. Never do that, because if they're coated with something, you're going to mess up that coating. Then you have to restrip the eye and recoat it with a high gloss to give it the wet, lifelike look. So let's get started and get this done. back and forth motion. Okay, now that we're through blowing off the bear, make sure all the dust, all the stuff that we could actually blow off is done. What we do, we get a rag, preferably a dish towel or shop towel, we wet it. We come up, we actually wipe off around the lips of an open mouth mount. So again, the technique shown on the bear apply to everything that's open mouth like this. Could be lion, African game, open mouth, bugling elk, could be anything, coyote, what have you. You get in there. Now, a couple other things you can do. Bend in your way here. Q-tip, wet one in. Put that in, get in the nostrils, get all that. Then you can see how that's starting to shine. Wipe that off, wipe off the tongue area, get up in there with the Q-tip over the teeth. Notice how nice that's starting to look. Get that off there. Oh, you can spend some time on these mounts, but you can also do things very, very quickly. So here, lightly go over the eyes. Sometimes that dust sticks there. You actually have to physically remove it, and that's what you're doing. Okay, there you go. We've got that done. Some dust that works its way down there that you can't blow out. You come back with something that's a little bit moist. And you actually go in there, you can actually see the wrinkles when we modeled the wrinkles in here. It starts to take on a whole different look. There you go. This here's pretty done. As with anything, with long hair, from a bear to a deer to an elk to whatever, you can come back and comb it if you want. There. That's pretty much clean and it's ready to go back on the wall. Now, if I want to give it the shiny look, clear, high gloss polyurethane. There you go. No sense taking out a can of polyurethane. You know what I'm talking about. Clear, high gloss. And you don't put it on there thick, lightly. You get that shine, there you go. You're set again for a couple of years probably. That's how you do it for a bear. Let's get on to something else now. Now we're going to do the same procedure with this sweeping left turn mule deer. I'm going to clean it. Notice the cobwebs and everything around here? Now we come back in. We could use a comb. Use our hand. A rag. Bunch of everything. Let me lower this a little bit. Get a little bit closer. Now here, remember what I said about the eyes? Just go ahead and lightly go over them, because dust will adhere to that fine surface so well. Just be real gentle. Now when it comes to the antlers, you wipe those off, get the dust off, and if you want, once you get this wiped off, usually this is sufficient, you could take some boiled linseed oil. Boiled linseed oil, put that on a rag, and then wipe this down. Let that dry for a little bit, a half hour or so, and then come back and wipe it off with a dry rag. And that will give an additional coating, a little bit darkening of the antlers for you, if that's what you want. Or you could actually go in and use some furnish or polish scratch remover on here. Darken them up a little bit, or you could just leave them alone, like I'm going to leave these alone. Once I wipe them off, get everything done there, you come back, and if you want to go ahead and adjust the hair a little bit, maybe comb it some more, but this here is all laid and dried in patterns. How it comes up here, because this here is a Roman nose deer, the Roman nose here, the bump, how the hair, it's dried in a pattern. When the skin shrinks, it hardens, solidifies, and it holds that hair in a pattern. If it was mounted correctly, which this one was, you won't have any problem. There you go. Go over the antlers a little bit more, and we're done with this one. Now again, if you want to put the sheen on it, you use the little bit of high gloss polyurethane. Just a little bit there, a little bit there. Get the sheen that you want. Once that's dry, you don't want to put it on there if the eye is wet. Now, on this particular deer, I want to show you something up close. Now, I got some cotton fibers here stuck on the eye. I got to get that off. But you notice the white part of the eye, since it's turned this way, you're not going to see it here, but you're going to see it here. Notice how this is mounted. Let us switch to this side of the eye. Now you notice you're not going to see but just a little white part of that eye here in the back, but up here up front where you're going to see the larger portion right up in here. So all of that is adjusted proportionally when you mount it, depending upon the turn of the mount. Now again, here we can come back in here and shine all this. It looks brand new and alive. But I don't want a great big buildup of that on the mount, so I just kind of leave it alone. And if the day ever comes where I want to do that, I'll do that. And so there you go. This one here is done. You notice it didn't take long at all, and it doesn't. You can make things simple, or you can make things complicated. Now there's something I want to tell you about that's very, very important. If any of your mounts ever become bug infested, what you're going to have to do then is evaluate whether or not the mount is worth keeping or not. Because you want to take your mount and put it in a plastic bag, spray it down very heavily before you put it in a plastic bag, obviously, with bug spray. Put it in a plastic bag, let it sit for several hours, maybe even overnight in the garage or whatever. Alright, and then you take it out, pretty much everything will be dead. In a catastrophic situation where your mounts were involved in a flood or whatever, chances are the mount is done. You're going to have to get it completely remounted, get a new cape, just keep the antlers. That's not always true. There have been a few instances where you can get the mount, let it dry out, then shampoo it all up quickly. Let everything set for a few minutes and then hose it off, blow dry the hair portion, and hopefully everything will be okay. But usually any taxidermy mount where you have to go through a catastrophic cleaning, where you have to actually shampoo the hair, get it all lathered up, let it sit and get it washed off, you're going to have hair slippage. So usually in a catastrophic situation like that, where it went through a flood, the mount is ruined, you have to get it remounted. Not always true, so everything is a judgment situation. It just depends upon the circumstances. That's how you do it. That's how you clean taxidermy mounts. Really short, simple, and sweet. Life-size mounts, the same thing. You take them outside, whatever, you blow them off, you clean them up, and that's about it. You make any adjustments to the gleam or gloss of certain areas, maybe color proportions, etc. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it.